Welcome to Mastering Life's Adventures, an educational podcast about tapping into your true self, the soul, the substance of your life, to discover what life's ups and downs are really about, and how to have a greater sense of purpose, peace, joy, and fulfillment. I am Dr. Judith Holder, your host, coach, psychologist, fellow seeker who enjoys diving into the connections between spirituality, psychology, wellness, and your everyday life's adventures. All preparing and polishing you like the facets of a magnificent diamond to be your best self. If you're craving more from your life, you are in the right place. Come, let's journey together and transforming what you know into who you really are. Mastering Life's Adventures begins now. Hi, I'm back with a special guest, and he'll share more about himself, Frazin. And what we're going to be talking about today is an area that I think is so important to talk and dive a little bit more deeply into. And he was delighted for us to be able to have this conversation. And it's around self-love and how to practice. Because many times we think of self-love and we think about it from a negative standpoint. But if you're on a spiritual path, it actually isn't a negative thing. It actually is something that helps the soul to evolve and to grow when you look at it through the right lens. So, Frazin, why don't you introduce yourself, and then we'll move into our conversation today.
Thank you for having me in here. Yeah, my name is Farzan, and I'm a spiritual explorer, I call myself. From age 12, I was looking for something more meaningful in life. So it set me to a quest to find the truth about myself and about others and about the world. So my perspective shifted during the time. And so that is something that I can share with others about my experiences.
Yeah. What happened for you before the age of 12 that moved you on the quest, the path of looking for something higher for yourself? Was there something that was different or unique, or was trying to, common?
So what I can say is about that age, I started questioning a few things. Like, when I was a child, I was a happy child before I go to school. You are playing in a playground and you're free to do whatever you want, and you are taken care of. The food and the clothing and everything is provided, and you're just free to just go whatever you want. And then you go to school, everything changes. You have to sit straight. You have to listen to the teacher. You have to obey the rules, do the homework, and you go to the yard and you get pushed by other students, and you feel that the life is changing. What is the reason that my mother just sent me to this place and so we don't understand at the time that it is for our own growth. But I was questioning why I don't find the source of joy anymore. I'm not joyful anymore. So everything was fine on the outside, but I was missing something. I was looking for that joy element. Mm-hmm. And sometimes I would ask some questions from my teachers. I remember in a class, the teacher was explaining about the concept of God. And he says that God is omnipower and omnipresent. And it is full of love. It is whatever that's coming from God is just out of love. Then he said, sometimes we do bad things and God sends us to the place that is called, what do you think is called? It's hell. Yeah. He said it is called hell. And then you go there and you're going to stay there forever because you made those mistakes in your life. So we have to be careful. We all want to go to heaven. Then I asked this question. So I asked my teacher, you say that God has all the power. And he said, of course. And I said, you are explaining that God knows everything. And he said, of course, that is true. So I said, if that is the case, how come someone who knows everything and who knows when he is creating some entity like me or other people, and he knows that I'm going to be ending up in the hell and be burnt forever, and still he goes ahead and creates me? So that was the question that I had at the time when I was 12. And he started yelling at me.
Really?
Yeah, because he said that you are asking those questions. You're not allowed to ask those questions and questioning God and stuff like that. So, and I repeated the questions with others, my parents and nobody could give me the answer. If God has all the power and all the knowledge, how come that kind of God creates someone who is going to hell and be burnt forever? So that was the question that started my search, the quest for finding the truth, not the shadow of the truth.
Right. That's really fascinating because my mother had a story similar when she was young and she went to her pastor and asked a key question about kind of who we are. And so it lights into that aspect that we're moving. But the thing that most people don't talk about is that also God gave us free will. And that as being a co-creator with God, that through that free will, we have choices. And in the process of making choices, that has the soul to evolve or de-evolve. We don't realize that. The soul can lift up or it can move down, in particular, it's based upon our choices. And so when you think about heaven and earth, we think about this kind of picture up here in heaven and something down there in the bowels of the earth as hell. But it actually is part of our consciousness too. And we don't even think about it as being a part of our consciousness about the choices that we're making. Are they uplifting, or are those choices that we're making and pulling us down in negativity and disdain and anger and hurt and bitterness and pain? Those we don't realize we can have that hell and brimstone burning within us, as the preachers would say in many regards. What are your thoughts about that?
Yeah, that's true. We can create the heaven or hell wherever we are. So it's all about our perspective. You can be a poor person from outside the standards, but you feel happy and you are in heaven wherever you go. And you can be the most famous or rich person in the world, but you be miserable. Wherever you go, you don't feel the happiness and joy, so you are in hell. So it doesn't matter. It is not dependent upon the situation you're in or outside circumstances. Everything is coming from inside. So that is the different perspective than everybody else might have. They think that life is whatever they are experiencing, and that can give us sometimes the good things that we need, and sometimes it gives us the bad things and stuff. But the fact is that life is just a reflection of whatever we have inside. When we change that reflection, we're going to have a different experience. I always say that life is like a screen in a movie theater. And so if you don't like the movie, if you go and scratch and destroy the screen, it doesn't matter because the movie is playing in the projector. So if you want to do something, if you want to change something, you have to go to the projector and change the movie, which is inside. The projector is inside. So whatever we see on the outside is just a reflection. And if we don't like whatever we see, we have to go to the source of that reflection, which is inside, which is within our heart. So we can make some changes in there and move a few things over and stuff. And then we experience a different life, a different screen. The reflection is going to be different. So that's
I
my
love that.
perspective.
I love that because it's so really vivid because we think the screen or the projection of what the images are showing, that's the real life. But you're right. It is actually coming from the projector, and you got to change the film if you
Yeah,
want to change. And we don't necessarily think about for the soul, the changing of that film is actually changing your thoughts, your feelings, your reactions, your behaviors, being more aware of that and making Christ-like choices about what is going to be in alignment with my soul, what would be outside of that alignment. And anything that doesn't vibrate to the quality of harmony, grace, peace, wisdom, and giving service, we have to realize, though those are the things that are telling us that's where we need to go in that direction. But if it's pulling us in a different direction, our thoughts and feelings to that anger and bitterness and hurt, then we realize we're still projecting something on that screen. And the soul wants you to take the choice of the high road, which is those other qualities I just mentioned. And sometimes we don't even think about that because you're just living life, the way life kind of pushes us or turns us in different directions.
yeah, exactly. And sometimes we identify ourselves as those qualities. Let's say I say I'm angry. I am identifying myself with that anger. And so anger is an emotion. So it can be any emotion. It can be grief, it can be panic, it can be fear, or any emotion. So when I say that I'm fearful, I'm stressful, I'm angry, I am identifying myself with those kind of emotions. But the fact is that I'm not my emotions. If I be my emotions, what happens when I change my emotions? I should be a different person, but I'm the same person experiencing those emotions. So I can say that I am experiencing anger, not I am angry. When I say I am angry, after I am whatever you put, you're identifying yourself with that thing. The same thing is for physical body. Some people identify themselves with their physical body. So based on their gender, based on their race, their skin color, or whatever, they identify themselves with that. But am I my physical body? That is a question that we should ask. If I be my physical body, what happens if I cut my hand and put it in front of me? Am I going to be a different person? No, I'm the same person. So the physical body is just one of those layers. The emotions that we carry is just another layer. What about our thoughts? Sometimes we think there is a famous sentence or wording from Descartes. It says that I am because I think. The fact is that I'm not my thoughts. Why? Because if I be my thoughts, what happens if I close my eyes and clean all the thoughts that I have? I have no thoughts. So if I be my thoughts, I shouldn't be existing in that moment. But I'm still existing and watching and aware. So what is that thing that is existing and watching and that is aware? It is beyond physical, emotional, and mental layers. It is something else. And what is that something else? Some people call it consciousness, some people call it soul. It doesn't matter what you call it, but we have that element that is beyond those layers. And those layers are like filters. For example, if I have a filter of hatred, which is an emotion, what happens is that I see everything and everyone through that filter. So it's just a filter. What happens if I remove that filter? I see different things. So sometimes we have those blinders, the limiting thoughts or emotions. What is the blinder? Blinder is something that they put around the eyes like a horse in a horse racing. So the horse can concentrate on the track and don't be distracted. So sometimes we have those layers and they act as those blinders. With those blinders, we identify ourselves as our physical body. And then we're going to go long on the discussion about the gender, the race, the color of skin, and stuff like that. And then we just have those opinions. And it is just a blinder. When we remove that, we see that all those things are irrelevant because we are beyond all those elements. They don't exist anymore.
You're saying some great pieces, and it brings to mind when you're sharing that, it is as if we are having as a soul, the soul does have to see through what your thoughts, your feelings, your reactions. I think God has given us the experience of being on earth to be a co-creator with him or her. And in that co-creation, as you said earlier, whatever you say behind the I am, because when God said, and when Moses said, who shall you reveal who I am? He says, I am that I am. So it means that I am, and then that's the God, and then the I am is the second part of it. And so if you are co-creator, how are you saying yourself? Are you saying I'm angry, I'm mean, I'm this, I'm that? Why not say I am who I am, which is God in manifestation? Or be able to look at things as saying, how are my thoughts, how are my feelings, which are vehicles, which I think you're alluding to too. And they're vehicles by which I express by, and I have to be more attuned to how I want to express myself in a way that is in alignment or congruent with who God is, whoever that you say God is, the I am presence, the creator, the Atman, whatever word that you want to use to that, but it's how are you getting more in alignment? And that's what the soul wants. The soul wants a greater alignment of upwardness and thinking, feeling, behaving in a way that is incongruent with what God would want in one's life. And I think Descartes had it wrong, in his statement. And I think, I am, it should be, I exist because God exists, within me and around me.
Exactly. Yeah, so our discussion is about self-love and how can we develop self-love. When you go beyond those layers, what happens? One of those layers is shame, and another layer is guilt. And those are strong in people because they are ingrained with their upbringing. So when we are growing up in a school or our parents or the society, everybody is encouraging us to be shameful and guilty about the mistakes that we make and those kind of things. But those emotions have a very low vibration. So in the chart of vibration, the shame is 20 and the guilt is 30. The lowest vibration you can get from a scale of 0 to 1,000. When we are involved with those kind of vibrations, those blinders, or whatever you call them, what happens is that we get stuck in there. We have low energy, we have low consciousness, and it affects all aspects of our life. And then those are trapped emotions that we are carrying. And everybody on average is carrying more than 200 of those trapped emotions. And trapped emotions is the concept that I found about during an injury. So I injured my back and nobody could cure me because I would go to the frozen neck and shoulder every week. I had to go to therapy for 15 years. Every week I had to go to therapy. Nobody could help me. And then a friend of mine came and she said that maybe I can help you. So she had a couple of phone sessions with me and she released the trapped emotions that I was developing at the time because I was losing my job and I was worried that I cannot provide for my family. So you go through a lot of stress and anxiety and worry and those kind of things. So I was carrying that emotions, but those emotions doesn't show up on MRI test. The specialist couldn't help me. Nobody could help me and point to finger to see this is the reason this muscle is pulled or something like that. Nobody could help me. but she released those emotions and I was fine. And I was amazed by that process. And she explained that everybody's carrying more than 200 emotions on average, based on the experiences that we have in life. And those are the filters that we have inside.
Yeah, and one of the comments I want to make to what you're saying is first, I think it's good to be able to let the listener and seekers know about the frequencies and what that is, and because you're talking about frequencies of energy, to clarify that. And in the frequency of energy, you can have high frequency of vibrating of light and energy, or you can have lower frequencies that are like you're talking about shame, anger, guilt, and certain things that vibrate at a lower level. And what does that have as an impact upon the soul? Well, the soul, actually, as you're talking about this, is as if when we're at that frozen shoulder, it's like you freeze the soul too, in terms of its progress and its movement, because we get locked in some ways to a particular sense or feeling or felt sensation or somatization types of energies that are taking place, which then puts weight on the soul. And so the soul either sometimes actually can fall asleep, because it doesn't want to have to deal with the pressure and the tension that happens. And so and that adds to our feeling of being empty. We're feeling empty. You don't feel satisfied. We don't feel happy. We don't feel whatever word you want to put there. And so that is sometimes the physical aspect, and we're not thinking about how it impacts the soul aspect of who we are. So that's a great example of what you're talking about, of how those emotions were unlocked that frees up the body, but also frees up the soul to continue to progress and make movement forward in the direction that is unique to that soul.
Exactly. So those emotions affect all aspects of our existence, like physical, emotional, and mental. And so what happens when we remove those kind of things? We are removing those layers and blinders. We are expanding our view towards ourselves and others and life. I give you an example. Before that experience, I was watching myself through those lenses. And then I was judging myself, I was judging others. So that is something that we do automatically. Our automatic setting or factory setting, let's say, is that we judge everything, we compare everything. That is the attribute of mind. And we all living in this physical body, and one of the aspects is that we have the filter of the mind who is judging and comparing things to understand. I was judging myself, I was judging others, and then I realized that those are just the filters. When I see someone, if I know that he is behaving the way that he is behaving, or she, doesn't matter, because of those filters. Let's say somebody has an emotion of insecurity. So that is just an emotion. So she is behaving based on that insecurity, fearful or something like that. And then I judge that person. She is like that, she is this, and she is that. When I see that person. But what if that is just an emotion that is trapped within her and she is behaving based on that emotion? Then I can penetrate my view deeper into her, not just looking at that layer that she is carrying, the emotional layer. I can go deeper and see the beauty that she has inside her heart. Actually, that is the source of that higher consciousness or God or whatever you see. You can look deeper than those surface level emotions or behaviors. The same thing goes for ourselves too. When we judge ourselves based on the behavior that we have, that behavior is just based on those more than 200 trapped emotions that we are carrying. If I know that, then I start changing my view towards myself, and I stopped judging myself based on those behaviors, because I see the beauty in the soul that I am. And then I see the beauty in the soul that everybody else is. Then things start to change.
That is hitting such a primary point that I think everyone can learn in the process of loving, increasing their love. And that is the quality of the immaculate concept. When we can hold the immaculate concept of the person, which is the beauty, the essence of who that person is, and know that these outer things are layers of the human personality, the ego persona, which I call in my podcasts and episodes, then the ego persona is always wanting to kind of be the center of attention, always wants to compare and judge, always wants to say, I'm better in some particular ways. But for those who are, there's something so much more in that person. And I can see they're making choices because, as I said earlier, we have free will to make choices of what we want to hold on to and what we don't want to hold on to, how we want to be and how we don't want to be. But if the person is holding on to some negative behavior or traits, or as a colleague used to say, bad habits, and then, if they're holding on to that, then, you can be able to see past it, but also be aware of the fact that it can be changed if they choose to want that change to occur, or they can continue down that same road. That's the beauty of living on Earth is that we have the free choice to make that decision. It is your choice to whether you want to hold that immaculate view as your which I'm turning into an immaculate view of a person, to see the essence of who they truly are.
Exactly. So it is essential that we ask ourselves, who am I? And then we go deep to find that answer. Mm-hmm. Because if we be able to find that answer, that element within us, which is eternal, and if we be able to find that element, everything starts to shift. And that shift happened to me when I was about 24 years old. And that was around 30 years ago. So you can guess how old I am. I was 24 years old after 12 years of research, going through different books. Why? Because at the time, there was no internet. There was no straightforward things that we can research. I had to rely on books. So at age 24, I had more than 1,000 books in my personal library to find the truth. I wanted to find the truth, not the shadow of the truth. I had to go through many different paths, close to 20 different paths during that 12 years. Mm-hmm. And every time I would go to a path and dedicated myself to the path that I was going through, and I was not satisfied. I would say it is not the highest path. I'm looking for the highest. I went jump from here to there, and everybody was saying that what are you doing? Sometimes you practice this and sometimes you practice that. Nobody could understand that I was searching for the truth. And so I'm 24 years old and I'm not satisfied with whatever I was finding. So I decided to make a radical decision. So I said to myself, I'm going to do the same thing as Buddha did. Because I knew that Buddha was in a castle. He came out of the castle. He found a dead person, a sick person, an old person. He said that the life is not the same as I was experiencing in the castle. So what is the meaning of life? And he was looking for the meaning of life, went through all over the place. After a few years, he was frustrated. So he said that I'm going to sit by that tree and I'm not going to get up until I experience illumination. So that is what he did. And I knew the story. So I said, maybe I can do the same thing. Let's try it. What I did was I went to my uncle and I told him that I'm going to go to the room that you have in the basement that has no windows. And he said, why are you going to there? I said, I explained the situation. And he was open-minded. So he accepted whatever challenge that I was going through. But he said that you say that you're gonna go and stay there and until you get the results. I said yes. And he says, what if it takes a long time and then you die from hunger? And I said, he is an intelligent man. I didn't think about that part. So I went to the market and I bought 5 kilos of raisin. And then I said that raisin is going to help me to stay alive if I need food or something like that. So I went to the room, closed the door, turned the light off, isolating myself from the noise and the light. After a while, you're sitting in the darkness and silence. You don't know what's happening outside. You don't know if it's day or night or the passage of time. So I was practicing whatever I learned during that 12 years, different techniques and so on. But I couldn't get the results that I was looking for. I had my tests. I knew how I could feel if I get to that level. So I failed the test a few times, tried different techniques, couldn't get the results. And then I was so frustrated. I was sitting and doing nothing. And all of a sudden, I had an experience. And that experience was very strange because I felt that I'm burning from inside. What was happening was I felt the warmth in my heart first, and then it spread all over my body. And I felt that I'm melting and I'm burning from inside. I was sweating badly on the outside. And then what happens when I was shaking, and at the time, there comes that moment that everything is bright. I was seeing the lights in the middle of the darkness, and I was hearing that heavenly music that was coming from inside. And it wasn't coming from outside world, because outside was absolute darkness and absolute silence. It was coming from inside. And at that moment, I had that feeling that you have an ice cube and you put it in the ocean, and that ice cube starts to melt and gets one with the ocean. I had that kind of feeling. I felt that I'm melting and I'm getting united with everything and everyone. There was no separation. It was a beautiful experience. And I came out of that room because I didn't need to stay in that room anymore. It took me after I came out, I found out that I was there for about 5 days. I came out with 2 realizations. One was there's a difference between joy and happiness. What is the difference? Happiness depends upon outer circumstances. Mm-hmm. But joy is coming from inside. Joy is coming from your heart. And it doesn't depend upon anything. And you are joy. I am joy. That is my experience. And then the second realization was there's a difference between wisdom and knowledge. Knowledge is something that you can find in a book or on the outside world by somebody talking or something like that. But wisdom is coming from inside. It's just coming from your heart. Mm-hmm. So wisdom of the heart. And that is the source of all knowledge. All the knowledge is coming from the same container that we call wisdom. So I realized I was looking for the truth in the wrong place. I was looking for the truth on the outside worlds, on different paths or something like that. But I was carrying the truth. That was the realization that I had, like the story of the acres of diamond, that farmer from Africa who sold his farm to go and find diamond, and he died after a lot of trips that all over the world. He couldn't find the diamond and he died. And the other farmer who bought the farm was digging to do farming and found a piece of a stone that was a little bit shiny. So he polished it off, sent it to the jeweler, and the jeweler says, "It's diamond. Where did you find it?" And then they found one of the largest diamond mines in Africa, in that farm that the first person just sold to go and find the diamond. We all are carrying that diamond within our heart. We just have to polish it. And that was the realization that I had. After that, I went through a couple of more breakthroughs, but that was just the starting point of my journey of realization.
And I want to stay on this point, and we can talk about the other in part two. But in this part that you're talking about, because our focus on self-love, we had that warm sensation when you're in that dark room, coming to into your heart, and it opened up into light and a lightness that happened to you. That is actually the liberation of our being from the shackles of the physical form to understand the true essence of who we are, and that vibration of light, love, peace, harmony, and like you're saying, wisdom, which is from within, not from out. And we don't realize we have an umbilical cord to the source. And that is the I am presence, the God source, the creator that's flowing through us continuously, and we are his or her children, and that have the opportunity to go through those types of experiences if we give ourselves the opportunity to do so. You gave yourself the opportunity that allows you to get away from distractions, get away from what you think you should do and how you should do it, get away from these things of the tangible world and move in just saying, I truly want to understand. I want to know the truth. And I think that's what the soul is always asking us to do is, what is the truth? Because our truth will take us to the higher path and will allow us to be able to learn something that we need to learn as we're moving through life and life's experiences that are around us. And the other thing, my mom used to say, your anchor of diamonds is your own backyard. Stop going out looking everywhere else. It's your own backyard. Look within. So,
exactly.
and she was so real and truthful to that. And she was also a seeker of the truth, as you were talking about as well. She wanted to know the truth because she said, if you know the truth will set you free. And when she said, what will set you free from? She would say, ignorance. Ignorance of the laws that exist in the universe, that if you're in alignment with them, will allow you to have the flow that is needed for you to be always in the right place, right time, getting the right experience that you need that helps to evolve your soul.
Exactly. And so that is a huge realization that we all carry that light. We don't realize it. Sometimes, I'm standing outside and I feel the sun is shining and I feel the warmth that's coming from the sun. And then all of a sudden it's overcast and the clouds come and cover the sky and I don't feel that sunshine anymore, the direct sunshine. But I know that the sun is behind the clouds. But the thing is that I don't feel that sunshine. And those kind of things, and when we are talking about self-love, we have to realize that we are that sun. And when you are the sun, it doesn't matter if the cloud is there or not. It really doesn't matter because you are that sun and you are spreading the love from your heart. So sometimes things happen for us, like those clouds and stuff. So if we move beyond those clouds, we become one with the sun. And then everything is in place. We don't need anything else. We can start shining. It's just a realization.
But how does that look like in the world of day to day, with seekers and learners saying, my days are crazy, my days always have it. How do I practice this if I want to have greater measure of love in my life? What do I do?
So That's a good question. How can we practice that? One of the things that help us to be aware about our existence and our situation is just change the way we look at things. And then the things that we look at change. What do I mean by that? Let's imagine that I practiced this. Everything I see, I say thank you to that thing or the person. If it's a person, if it's a thing, just a pen or paper or a computer, when I notice something on the outside, I say thank you for being in here to creating this experience for me, to be in the physical world. When you say thank you, what happens? You are in the moment. You cannot be in your past or in the future and say thank you. You have to be in the moment. So it keeps you in the moment, in the consciousness of being in the moment. And then when you are practicing that, we have to practice it consciously. Why? Because our subconscious or automatic programming takes us to the past or to the future automatically. We're always worried about something that might happen in the future. And we are always thinking about our mistakes that we made in the past. So we are switching between past and future all the time. The grief, depression, and those kind of things are related to the past, and stress and anxiety are related to the future. And we are all facing those kind of feelings. But we have to do something that brings us to the consciousness of the moment. And this is one of the exercises that I suggest people start doing. You know, I noticed that a lot of people are dealing with stress and anxiety nowadays. And it is something that takes a toll on our health. Based on the research, between 60 to 80% of people who go to doctor, visit the doctor for some problems, physical problems, the root cause of their problem is coming from stress and anxiety. It is research. The scientists have that kind of research is published in medical books. So if 60 to 80% of the problems that I have is coming from stress and anxiety, it is a big deal. I have to do something about it. So I said that then I have to do something about it. I wrote in a short ebook, which is called Stress Free in Seconds. And so I said that I'm going to distribute that to people as a gift because it's free. They can learn that simple technique to bring themselves back from the stressful moments that they are experiencing. And that is the gift that I'm going to give to the listeners in here. They can find that book for free, and just it helps them to be in the moment, be in that grateful state, and enjoy the life more and more. But this is something that we have to practice actively, because we have that filter of the mind, which is judging, which is going to the past, going to the future, and those kind of things. So what do we do to practice to be in the moment?
You know, and some of the other things I think about practicing as you're mentioning those things, and you'll see his link, you know, that can take you to the book that he's making mention of. But one of the things that I don't think we do enough of is be aware of our breath. You can practice love by even our breath, that the breath in is we're bringing a breath in of love and peace and joy. We're holding it for a few seconds, you know, sending it to all parts of our body. And then we breathe out through the mouth or through the nose, a greater measure of peace and harmony to the world and all individuals we come in contact with. So that is kind of like a figure of flow, that we're breathing in the good we're reading our goodness too to other individuals so that we can be more fully present in the now, which you're making mention of. Because stress and anxiety takes us out of the now and also takes the soul out of the now. And the soul needs to have a measure of comfort. And so, what are we doing that are comforting to our soul that allows love to expand within us? So, breath is one. And as you mentioned before, being aware of being grateful or gratitude or being able to be thankful in particular ways. But I would invite the seeker to think about what are two things that I can be able to do to expand love in the now, and now allow myself to move into that stream of stress or worry or over concern or whatever it may be. The more that you become more intentional about it, then the more that the body starts to self-regulate itself too. So that through your breath or through gratitude or thankfulness, and those are all important things. It helps to settle the soul and helps to give you greater intuition. The intuitiveness is what we're looking for. Because that other stuff, such as stress, is static to the soul. Last thoughts about that?
Yeah, it's important to shift our perspective and look deeper. I remember I had a client and she was in the very advanced stage of cancer. And she was desperate because the doctors said that you have about a week and we cannot do anything. So she couldn't move and she was laying down in the bed the final hours actually. So all her body was affected. And she was in another country, so we had to communicate remotely. She said that I'm in that stage. I don't know if you can help me or not. I said, there's no harm. Let's try, see what we can do. What I do usually for those cases is that I boost their immune system, because our immune system is a network of things that work together. When it is compromised by stress and anxiety and other things that we experience in life, our guard is down. And then the cancer cells, which are just the regular cells that we all have in our body, some of those cells, instead of going out of the body, they decide to stay and spread. We all have those kind of cancerous cells in our body, but our immune system is strong enough to just isolate them, not letting them to spread. But when our immune system is compromised, then we get those kind of experiences. I told her that I'm going to boost your immune system by removing those blockages, emotional blockages, mental blockages that you have. And what we did during that process helped her to just go through an improvement. So after a month, she was feeling much better than before. So she didn't die and she stayed alive for a month. And then she called me one day and she said that I have a bad news. I said, what? She said, my son went to the school and brought me something, which is coronavirus. Mm-hmm. And she said that I'm infected and I cannot breathe. And she was talking very low and she couldn't talk much. And she said, they're gonna send me to the hospital. I said that when you go to the hospital, just remember to do the exercises that we talked about. And she said, okay, I try. So she went to the hospital. I said that to myself, she's not going to come out of that hospital because of the things that she is experiencing. Her body is not ready for those kind of injections and things that they put in the patients in the hospital and stuff like that. After a week, she called me again, and I was surprised to receive the call from her. I wasn't expecting her to call me. She called me, and she said that I'm out. And I said, how did you get out? Did you practice the things that I told you? She said, no, most of the time I was unconscious. I couldn't do much. I couldn't move and I couldn't do anything. there was just one practice that I tried to do as long as I could. I said, which one? She said, the story that you told me about those two mothers on the two sides of the street. So I remember I told her the story about two mothers on the two sides of the street. The first mother on the left side of the street is taking her child to daycare. And she's moving fast because she is late for work. So she's moving fast, and all of a sudden the child is trying to catch up falls down and injure his knee. And then the mother starts yelling at the child that, why are you so slow? You're making me to be late again. And then the child is crying and so on. So that is the scenario. And the second scenario is for the child on the right side of the street. And so what happens is the same scenario. She's going to work and she is late. The child falls down, injures the knee, and then all of a sudden the mother says, oh, I'm sorry, I shouldn't push you like this, and I'm so sorry about that. And she just bends and kisses the knee and caresses the son and stuff, and then the son feels better. So I told her, the cells that you have in your body are like the child that you're carrying. Sometimes they are not feeling well. Sometimes they are injured. Do you want to play the role as the mother on the left side of the street or the right side of the street? It makes a huge difference, and it's up to you. It's your choice. So she practiced sending love to those injured cells. And then that brought her out of that hospital. And I was amazed about the power of love. That is the power of self-love. When you are sending love to those injured cells, you cure them. It can be as easy as that. And that was something that I didn't even expect. My client helped me to just open up my eyes as well, that things that people can do for themselves is they can make miracles with just opening their changing their perspective.
Wow, that's a very powerful story. And I think when I think of love, I think of God. I think God is love. And sometimes we don't put the two together, but it is. So if God is love, then going back to your childhood with that teacher, you were talking about God is omniscient, omnipresent, omnipotent. No, well, just think about that. Love that you're sending to those cells and atoms, if it's God, it makes her omnipresent, omnipotent, and omnipresent. And just being, the essence of who truly God is. So that's a nice way to end our time together as it relates to self-love and how to practice. That's a great story. Any last comments you want to make before we end our time?
Yeah, the last comment is exactly about the question that I was asking when I was 12 years old from my teachers. They couldn't give me the answer, but I found the answer myself. I found that there are two elements. One is joy and one is expansion. Those are God qualities that we carry. So we are here for the expansion. We are here on the school of life for the expansion. And then we come here, we go through those barriers, and then we feel pain, but pain is different than suffering. So we go through those moments, and it helps us to expand our consciousness and do something impactful for others out of love. And then the joy comes. They combine together, and that is a fulfilling life. When you have the combination of joy, expansion, and impact, that is a fulfilling life.
Yeah, and in that fulfillment is we go right back to that quality of love and their self-loving of yourself, and then also doing it on a daily basis. You're practicing it. The soul continues to evolve, the soul continues to grow, and the soul continues to have lessons that it may need to help it in that process. You're no longer seeing things from as bad, 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 but you're looking at it as opportunity, opportunity, and more opportunity. So thank you so much for this conversation. Frazin will be coming back, and we're going to be talking about another subject area that we think you might have a very strong interest in, and that is you possess immortality. So see you soon. Take care,
Sure.
Thought Seekers.
Thank you.
Bye for now.
Thank you for joining me for this episode on Mastering Life's Adventures, being your best self through soul evolution. If you have enjoyed what you've heard today, I would be delighted if you would share this episode with others, leave a thumbs up, and subscribe to my Mastering Life's Adventures podcast. Look forward to your joining the next episode. Please leave any comments or suggestions you might have below. Bye for now.